What a weekend of sports it was. Let's start with the NFL.
Yeah.
The Saints yesterday losing by a point after, setting a record? I mean, only the Saints could get as many yards as they got, set the new team record, a 98-yard touchdown. What happened?
Well, I mean, you talk about it, Rob. Number one, you have 24-10. Third quarter at home, you got to win. I mean, you have to win. And I know the Raiders are going to be better this year, but they are a team that didn't even have a winning record a season ago. You have to win that type of game. Drew Brees threw for over 400 yards yesterday, continues to set NFL records. He's going to throw for over 5,000 yards this year, mainly because he has to. But you're up 24-10, and you got a chance to put the game away, and they didn't do it. So just very, very frustrating. I mean, there's no two ways about it.
Brett comes home after he went to watch the game with friends. Comes home and says, "It was just awful call towards the end." Was there some big awful call?
There was a situation where the Saints could have won the game. The Raiders had it fourth down, and they went for it on the drive that they scored the touchdown and the 2-point conversion.
Okay, yeah.
And they called Craig Robertson of the Saints for a pass interference call, and it was iffy, especially considering the fact that it was kind of an uncatchable ball. But while I agree with Brett that it was a bad call, the officials had been calling touch fouls on receivers all day, so they've been calling pass interference all day.
I feel like in watching sports, there's always like a penalty of the day.
Yeah.
And there's something, it was pass interference on a lot of things that I was like, where it was even iffy if they were still in bounds.
Right.
Or you had plenty time to throw.
Yeah.
And then, really, you're going to call pass interference whenever you're like 6 seconds later?
Exactly.
And,
I always say let the players decide the game. And, in that situation, I agree. I mean, I thought it was an uncatchable ball. I don't think that Robertson, held him up a whole lot anyway. But, like I said, that was going on the whole game. Another thing that just leads to the frustration. And more so than the loss. And I understand that the loss is, to most people, that's the most important thing, and rightfully so, because you only play 16 games a year. But now it looks like the Saints are going to be playing an extended period of time without Delvin Breaux, who apparently suffered a lower left leg fracture yesterday, left fibula. And they are just not going to be the same team without him. He's their best cornerback, and if you noticed yesterday, the Raiders and Derek Carr started to shred the Saint defense, especially their secondary. And having to play the Giants next week with their aerial passing attack without Delvin Breaux, it's going to be quite.
So, do you think Breaux was targeted?
No, he left the game with a lower leg injury. Then he came back, and then he was hurt. So he was out. He was out of the game. Whenever it was getting hammered. But it's just it just leads more to the frustration.
It's
it really does.
Heartbreaker.
So you were talking about the Saints maybe looking like a completely different team without Delvin Breaux. But what about the two teams who were different teams for the better, LSU and the Cajuns?
Yes.
Both looked like completely different teams from last weekend.
Yes, indeed. Cajuns beat McNeese. That was really a must-win for them to get their season jump started and going. They played better football. Did they play perfect? No, but they played better football. They had to beat a pretty good McNeese team, and they're going to have to play better football this week to beat a good South Alabama team in their Sun Belt Conference opener at home. It's the final game of a season opening 3-game homestand. I said it before the season began. I thought it was important that the Cajuns win at least 3-2 and maybe 4-1 in their first 5 games. They got a victory over McNeese, so maybe that's a start. And then LSU makes a quarterback change. During their game against Jacksonville State, they were able to put up 34 points on the board. And just like the Cajuns, they're going from an FCS opponent last week to an FBS opponent, this week. So they're going to have to be a whole lot better than themselves.
So I might be criticized by those who are a fan of new traditions, but I like traditions that are just kind of organic. Like, Mama's been ringing a bell every time the Cajuns win, so we hung up a bell. But this bell came out of nowhere for me. And I feel like it's a giant jinx, like putting your girlfriend's name on a tattoo on your arm. Just just started the stopwatch. Like, the relationship's probably not going to work.
I understand.
I was really worried about the bell. Because I felt like the bell was just like, you put this thing up there to make a new thing, and now they're not even going to win. So I guess they rang the bell.
So you one of these superstitious people that don't admit that you superstitious.
I change my boxers every Sunday. I don't do that whole thing. But yes, I'm superstitious because why change something that's good? Add something else to it.
Well, but you know they played better football. The LSU fans still aren't happy, and I get that after that season opening loss or season week opening loss to Wisconsin. And they beat a team, let's face it, that they were supposed to beat. Jacksonville State was not supposed to come in and play with LSU. And they didn't. LSU picked up the victory. It's going to get a lot harder now as you go into to SEC play, which is right around the corner. So we'll see how they fare then.
And what do we move to next week? Mississippi State, right?
Yes.
All right.
Who they should beat. I mean, Mississippi State is not a very good football team right now, so LSU again has to take care of business.
All right, Steve Peloquin. Steve, thanks for coming in.
It's been your pleasure.
It has been my pleasure. We'll see you on Friday for a preview of the week's events.